August 1st, 2012, 9:30 a.m. The New York Stock Exchange opens for trading. Inside Knight Capital's New Jersey headquarters, engineers are monitoring their screens. Everything looks normal. Coffee cups steam, keyboards click. Just another Wednesday morning on Wall Street. 4 minutes later, NYSE analysts notice something strange. Trading volume has doubled. They trace the surge back to Knight Capital and try calling CEO Thomas Joyce. But Joyce isn't at his desk. He's at home, recovering from knee surgery the day before. By the time Knight's technology team gathers to investigate what's happening, their computers are executing 8 million shares per minute. Stocks are moving violently. Wizard software rockets from $3.50 to $14.76. Other companies are plunging double digits. The engineers stare at their screens in confusion. They have no idea what's causing this. And then, someone makes a decision that will cost the company everything. Knight Capital Group was the invisible backbone of American finance. The firm handled 17.3% of all trading on the New York Stock Exchange and 16.9% of NASDAQ. Every day, they processed 3.3 billion shares worth over $21 billion. If you traded stocks through TD Ameritrade, E-Trade, or Scottrade, your order flowed through Knight's systems. The company employed 1,400 people and had a market cap of $1.5 billion. CEO Thomas Joyce had turned Knight into an industry powerhouse. Revenue had doubled under his leadership to $1.36 billion in 2011, with profits of $115.6 million. At the heart of Knight's operation sat SMARS, the Smart Market Access Routing System. Think of SMARS like a pizza delivery dispatcher. A customer orders 100 pizzas, too many for one driver. The dispatcher breaks that into smaller deliveries. 10 pizzas to this driver, 15 to that one, 20 to another. Faster, more efficient. SMARS did the same thing with stock orders. One big order to buy 10,000 shares gets split into dozens of smaller orders across different exchanges. This algorithm could process 2 million orders per second. It operated at speeds faster than you can blink. Each order had basic information: price, quantity, timing, and something called flags. Little switches that told the system how to handle each order, like checkboxes on a form. This flag system would become the murder weapon. In the early 2000s, Knight developed something called PowerPeg. The exact purpose remains unclear. Some say it was a tool for making markets manually. Others claim it was a test program designed to deliberately move stock prices up and down to verify how other algorithms behaved. Here's how PowerPeg worked. It would place an order to buy stock. When that order filled, it automatically placed another order at the same price, and another, like a machine gun firing orders. But PowerPeg had a safety mechanism, a counter that tracked how many shares you'd bought. Think of it like a gas pump that stops automatically when your tank is full. Buy 1,000 shares, the counter tracks 100, 500, 900, 1,000. Stop. Done. That was the safety switch. Knight deprecated PowerPeg in 2003. They told everyone to stop using it. They marked it as old, outdated software. But the engineers never deleted the actual code from their servers. They figured it was tangled up with other important code. As long as everything was working, why risk breaking something by removing it? The code sat there, dormant, waiting. 2 years later, in 2005, Knight decided to reorganize some of their code, make it cleaner, more efficient. During this cleanup, they moved the counter, the thing that tracked how many shares PowerPeg had bought. Imagine unplugging the gas pump's automatic shutoff and forgetting to plug it back in. The pump still works. It pumps gas. It just never stops filling. Now your gas is overflowing onto the pavement, flooding the parking lot. That's what happened to PowerPeg. The counter got disconnected. The safety mechanism was gone. During this reorganization, the tests for PowerPeg started failing. Red lights on the dashboard, errors popping up. Engineers noticed, and then they made a choice that would eventually destroy the company. Instead of asking why the old code was breaking, they just deleted the tests. Their reasoning seemed logical. Nobody's using PowerPeg anymore. Why waste time testing code that's not even running? For 7 years, from 2005 to 2012, this broken code sat on Knight's servers, like a landmine buried in a field. All the warning signs removed, just waiting for someone to step on it. In early June 2012, the SEC approved something called the Retail Liquidity Program, a new system designed to get better prices for regular investors. Launch date, August 1st, 2012. Knight had 30 days to update their systems, 30 days to modify software that handled $21 billion in trades every single day. CEO Joyce was skeptical about the whole program. He questioned it publicly, but competitive pressure forced participation. If Knight didn't join, they'd lose business to competitors who did. The development team needed to add new code to SMARS to handle these new orders. They needed a flag. One of those little switches. A way to tell the system, this order is part of the new program. But here's the problem. They'd run out of flags. The system only had so many available switches, and they were all being used. An engineer made a decision. Reuse the old PowerPeg flag. The logic seemed sound. PowerPeg was deprecated. Nobody was using it. The flag was just sitting there, unused. And hey, we'll delete the old PowerPeg code when we deploy the update anyway, so the flag will be free to use. Between July 27th and July 31st, 2012, Knight's operations team deployed the new code to their 8 servers. The process was completely manual. A technician would connect to each server individually, copy the new software, update the configuration, move to the next server. 8 servers, 1 technician, 1 keyboard. Someone had written a script to automate this. Connect to server 1, update, move to server 2, update, move to server 3, like dominoes falling in sequence. But this script was never properly tested, never reviewed by anyone else, never stored in any official system. And it had a bug. If the script couldn't connect to a server, it would just skip it, move to the next one. And at the end, it would report success. Everything updated. During the deployment, one of the 8 servers was down for maintenance. The script tried to connect, failed, skipped it, moved on, reported success. When that server came back online, it was still running the old software, complete with the broken PowerPeg code from 2005, the code with no safety switch. Knight tested their new system for 3 days, July 27th through the 31st, but they only tested the servers that had received the update. The 8th server? Nobody checked it. Nobody verified that all 8 servers were running the same software. No alarm system to catch the mismatch. No second person to double-check the deployment. No written checklist requiring these checks. The stage was set. At 8:01 a.m. on August 1st, 2012, Knight's computer system started sending emails. Before the market even opened, test orders were coming in for the new Retail Liquidity Program. On the 8th server, something was wrong. The flag that was supposed to trigger the new code was waking up the old PowerPeg code instead. The system knew something was off. It sent an alert email. PowerPeg disabled. Then it sent another one, and another. Between 8:01 a.m. and 9:30 a.m., the system sent 97 warning emails, 97 chances to catch the problem before the market opened. These emails landed in inboxes. Nobody was watching for them in real time. They weren't designed as emergency alerts, just routine system messages, the kind that pile up in your inbox while you're getting coffee. The SEC would later point out, these emails gave Knight a clear opportunity to identify and fix the problem before the market opened. Nobody read them. At 9:30 a.m., U.S. equity markets opened for trading. Orders started flowing into Knight's system. The load balancer distributed them across all 8 servers, like a card dealer distributing cards around a table. 7 servers processed orders normally with the new code. 1 in every 8 orders landed on the 8th server. And on that server, the flag meant to trigger the new Retail Liquidity Program code was instead waking up PowerPeg, the code that had been sleeping since 2003. The code with its safety mechanism ripped out in 2005. PowerPeg came alive. It started doing exactly what it was designed to do. Place an order. Order fills. Place another order at the same price. That order fills. Place another, and another, and another. Remember the gas pump with no automatic shutoff? Picture walking away while gas floods out. Fills your car. Overflows onto the ground. Keeps pumping. Spreads across the parking lot. Into the street. Just keeps going. That's what was happening inside Knight's computer. PowerPeg was buying stock at the higher ask price, then immediately selling at the lower bid price. Buying high, selling low. The opposite of making money. Losing money on every single trade. And it was doing this millions of times, faster than any human could possibly stop it. By 9:34 a.m., NYSE analysts had noticed something was very wrong. Trading volumes had doubled. They traced it back to Knight and started trying to reach CEO Joyce. Knight's chief information officer gathered the technology team. There was no emergency plan, no instruction manual that said, "If this happens, do this." Engineers started digging through code while the 8th server continued spraying orders into the market. They suspected the new code they'd just deployed. Maybe the experimental algorithms. Maybe the quants were testing something. They weren't sure what was causing it, and the new retail liquidity program had passed all its tests. So they let trading continue. 8 million shares per minute were executing. Unable to figure out the root cause quickly, Knight's engineers made a catastrophic decision around 9:45 a.m. 7 servers were running new code. 1 server was running old code. The problem seemed to be happening. So maybe the new code was broken and the old code was actually the good code. They decided to roll back all 7 working servers to match the 1 broken server. Imagine a building on fire. 7 floors are fine. 1 floor is burning. The fire department arrives and sets the other 7 floors on fire to match. That's what Knight just did. They removed the working code from 7 servers and installed the broken PowerPeg code on all of them. All 8 servers were now running the defective code. The problem multiplied by 8. What had been concentrated chaos in some stocks now spread like wildfire across Knight's entire portfolio. Seemingly every stock they touched started moving violently. Engineers finally identified what was actually happening. They began shutting down SMARS at approximately 9:58 a.m. Knight had no kill switch, no big red emergency button to instantly stop everything. They had to manually shut down each component while orders were still firing into the market. When SMARS finally stopped, 45 minutes had passed since the market opened. In those 45 minutes, from just 212 normal parent orders, SMARS had generated millions of child orders. Over 4 million actual trades executed across 154 different stocks, 397 million shares. Knight had accidentally bought $3.5 billion worth of stocks they didn't want and sold short $3.15 billion worth of stocks they didn't have. Total exposure, $7 billion, or Knight had $365 million in cash. Picture accidentally buying 7 houses when you only have enough money for the down payment on a studio apartment. For 75 stocks, Knight's trading represented more than 20% of all trading volume that morning and pushed prices more than 5%. For 37 stocks, prices moved over 10% and Knight was more than half of all the trading. During the first 45 minutes of trading, Knight was more than 50% of the total market in affected stocks. Knight tried to get the SEC to cancel the trades. SEC Chairman Mary Shapiro largely refused. Under the rules created after the 2010 flash crash, only trades that moved prices more than 30% could be canceled when this many stocks were affected. The NYSE canceled trades in only 6 stocks. Everything else stood. By early afternoon, Knight employees were updating their resumes, expecting to be unemployed by Friday. Knight's stock price had closed at $10.33 the day before. It dropped 67% to $3.39. The next day, it fell another 24% to $2.58. In 2 days, Knight lost 75% of its value. $700 million in market cap just vanished. Knight reached a deal with Goldman Sachs that evening. Goldman agreed to buy Knight's entire $7.65 billion mess at a price that locked in Knight's loss at $440 million. This kept Knight from having to dump everything into the market, which would have caused even more chaos. But it also meant the loss was real, final. No way to trade out of it. Knight had until Monday, August 6th, to pay Goldman $440 million. They had $365 million in cash. Major clients started pulling their business. E-Trade suspended trading with Knight. Vanguard suspended trading with Knight. Would customers ever come back? Even if Knight survived, could they continue operating? After frantic weekend negotiations, Knight announced a $400 million rescue package on Sunday, August 5th. The investors were led by Jefferies Group, with TD Ameritrade, Blackstone, and others joining in. Even Getco, one of Knight's direct competitors, put in money. The terms were brutal. The rescue investors got shares that would convert to stock at $1.50 each. The stock had closed Friday at $4.05. That's a 63% discount. When the dust settled, rescue investors would own 73% of Knight. Existing shareholders would see their ownership cut by roughly 3/4. CEO Thomas Joyce personally lost about $17 million in a week. The rescue closed on August 6th, just in time to pay Goldman. Knight avoided bankruptcy, but the company's independence was over. Management no longer controlled Knight Capital. On October 16, 2013, the SEC released its findings. This was the first time ever the SEC had enforced a rule called the Market Access Rule. The SEC found that Knight willfully violated multiple rules. Knight didn't have proper controls to prevent bad orders from entering the market. Knight didn't have limits to prevent orders that exceeded their capital. Knight didn't have proper systems to manage code deployments or prevent old, unused code from activating. Andrew Serezny from the SEC said Knight's violations put both the firm and the markets at risk. Daniel Hawk added that every firm needs to look at each part of their systems and ask, what happens if this breaks? What safety nets do we have? Knight's failure to ask these questions had catastrophic consequences. Knight agreed to pay a $12 million penalty. They had to hire an outside consultant to review all their systems and procedures. But here's what didn't happen. 0 individual executives were charged with anything. Despite the SEC saying Knight willfully violated the rules, no person was held responsible. CEO Thomas Joyce kept his job. He was praised for handling the crisis well and arranging the rescue funding in just 48 hours. He resigned voluntarily in July 2013 after the merger was complete. He received a $7.5 million retention bonus. According to people inside the company, even the engineer who performed the failed deployment kept his job until at least 2016. His managers, though, his entire chain of command up to the top technology officer, all replaced through resignations, firings, or reorganizations. 4.5 months after the disaster, Knight announced a merger with Getco. The deal closed July 1st, 2013, creating a new company called KCG Holdings. Someone from GETCO became the new CEO. Joyce resigned right after. The company used Knight's stock symbol but GETCO's branding. KCG lasted 4 years. On April 20th, 2017, another trading firm called Virtu Financial announced they were buying KCG for $1.4 billion. The deal closed July 20th, 2017. Knight Capital Group ceased to exist. After 22 years of operation, the brand disappeared completely. The Knight Capital incident stands as one of the most expensive software failures in history. One server that didn't get updated, 9-year-old code that nobody deleted, 97 warning emails that nobody read, no emergency shutoff switch, and a backwards decision that made everything 8 times worse. $440 million destroyed in 45 minutes. But the real story isn't about one server or one deployment. It's about what happens when an entire organization makes small compromises over years. In 2005, when tests started breaking, engineers had a choice. Investigate why old code was failing, or just delete the tests and move on. They deleted the tests. They normalized broken, untested code sitting in a system that traded billions of dollars every day. When time pressure hit in 2012, shortcuts seemed reasonable. Reuse an old flag, skip the double checks, trust the script, Keep moving. When warnings appeared, nobody designed them as real alerts, just emails. They piled up in inboxes while people got coffee. When the crisis hit, there was no plan, no kill switch, no clear authority to stop trading. Engineers made their best guess in real time. They guessed wrong. Every individual decision seemed small, reasonable even. It's just some old code. It's just skipping one check. It's just letting trading continue for a few more minutes while we figure this out. In systems that operate faster than humans can think, small decisions compound. They align. They cascade. Knight Capital's disaster wasn't caused by one engineer forgetting to update one server. It was caused by an organizational culture that prioritized speed over safety. That treated risk management as paperwork to file rather than systems to trust your life on. That ignored warning signs for years because everything seemed to be working fine. Until it wasn't. In financial technology, operational excellence isn't a nice to have. It's survival.